I think what's really important about the Ministry is they've always understood that looking after the DJs and making it a place where DJs and their friends want to socialise is a big part of getting the venue talked about, because if the DJ doesn't just turn up, play their tunes and go home, but actually not only wants to stay, hang out, but all their friends want to come as well, that's kind of word of mouth publicity that you simply can't generate via flyers or kind of social networking.
It's that it is a club. It's a purpose-built club. But it's like the holy grail of clubs.
So for me, the thing that stood out the most about Ministry of Sound as a club was, at the time, the professionalism of everybody involved. Everything had to be the best.
They look after it, they stay current, they stay cutting edge on all levels, you know, everything from the sound system to the lineups, and that's why it's the club that it is.
You're in Elephant and Castle in a disused bus depot, selling no booze. On paper, you wouldn't have thought it would have lasted 5 minutes.
The difference back then, and I think a lot of clubs have taken it on, but the difference back then was it was all about the music, and it was about the quality of music, it was about the sound of music, it was about the person playing the music, and it was about the collective of the atmosphere. It wasn't a place you go to see and be seen.
I guess the difference with the Ministry is that it's kind of a purpose-built club. It's made to have a good time. They've got the sound system right, the atmosphere right. They really program the DJs and the nights really well. They've got the best kind of equipment, and it's just one of those places you know you're going to turn up and you're not going to be like, oh my God, this is just awful. It's always going to be good fun. So
I remember Justin saying, quoting people like Steve Rebell and saying, I can have 1,000 people locked outside, but the 500 I've got in are the most important ones in there. You felt very special. Francois Kevorkian did a music magazine request night, which was around 94.
I think my favourite night has to go down as, I can't remember whether it was the first New Year's Eve, which would have been 91, 92, or the second New Year's Eve, which was 92, 93.
The best night for me was playing for 12 and a half hours. I started at 11, finished at 11:30 in the morning, still like 200 or 300 people left, and it was like, right, I'm going home, I've had enough. I need some breakfast.
There was a small request form in Music Magazine, and you had to write your favourite 3 house tracks from decades gone by and whatever. And he did it. He brought over about 600 records, and they were as diverse and as wonderful and as incredible as you possibly could get. But he went through every single track.
I think my best night in the club was the Levan Memorial. Having had Levan come over and DJ in the club and staying for an extended period, which was educational and entertaining in itself. After he'd passed away, to have that memorial in the club with the other DJs from the garage, the crowd that we had, that was what that. I mean, you had people crying for joy, for sadness, and that was the most emotionally charged night that I've ever seen, I think, anywhere ever.
For the first time, we decided to run the club for 24 hours, and Tony Humphries was coming over to do the main slot. The one sort of problem we had was that although we had this supposed 24-hour dance license, we couldn't actually run between 6 and 9 if we were going to run for the whole 24 hours. So I think Humphries started about 3 o'clock playing just his usual fantastic New York garage style. We had a break at 6, and I think we put the Terminator on, so people could watch a film for 3 hours, which was quite awesome actually, through the main system. Not realising, of course, actually we would have got in more trouble for screening a film than we would have if we carried on the music.
We were open for hours and hours and hours on end, and he finished the night with Kashmir by Led Zeppelin. I always remember hearing that, and all the doormen and our head of operations at the time, Nod, radioing through to me and saying, "Can I hear Kashmir by Led Zeppelin being played in a house club right now?" And I said, "Yeah, you can."
Well, my best ever night would probably be the night I met my husband. Otherwise, I'll be in big trouble if I don't say that.
I think Levan also, the funny moment with Levan, just to show what kind of twisted sense of humour he had, was when he played CC Peniston finally for 45 minutes. Backwards and forwards, same track, mix. And then when he put in After 45 minutes, he mixed in another track that wasn't Finally. Everyone on the dance floor went Finally and got the joke.
Masters at Work. Masters at Work, really enjoyed that.
I'd say Masters at Work are definitely way up there.
If I could pick out one, it would probably be Masters at Work.
Best DJ set here, probably one of the Masters at Work shows, you know, again, just mind-blowing on all levels. Louis would be playing, dropping acapellas, and Kenny would be very much like a hip-hop DJ with loops, you know, way before we had looping facility. He would do it old school with vinyl, you know, and keep a groove going on 2 decks while Louis would be chucking acapellas over the top, you know, it was just mind-blowing stuff.
CJ definitely rocked my world with his consistency because he knows the system. He knows how to tweak the sound system so that it's a complete consistency of sound and the choice of music.
Tony Humphries was always the guy to hit. Well, musically, you know, just the stuff he used to play was, you know, incredible.
Francois is definitely one of them, and that goes without saying with it, even with his productions, even to this day, that I've never met a man with so much attention to detail.
Francois Kevorkian, that was one of the best sets I heard in the club.
Do you know what? For me, the best DJ set I ever heard would have been Frankie Knuckles in...
I know there was like one time I heard Shorty Blitz playing there, and he was so out of control on the turntables. I mean, like, this kid was lost in like a world of, I don't know what was going on, but everything he did just completely nailed it, from every cut to where he was putting the cuts to the songs that he was playing. It just like blew the audience out. It was like taking a grenade and going bang and whoosh, and just seeing carnage on the dance floor everywhere. And I just remember thinking, I had my head in my hands thinking, shit, I got to follow this kid.
Jazzy M was a constantly good one. I mean, you knew when Jazzy was going to come on, you knew you were in for a good time. Smoking Joe was another good one.
It would have been quite a late onset. I think it would have been about 2005. No, maybe earlier.
Eric Murillo, can't remember what event it was. I remember he was in there doing a 4-hour set. Bloody hell.
Best DJ, in my experience, is Mark Knight. Amazing set.
Mark Knight, he's the guy to go and see in there if you love house music. Bigged you up there, Mark, you owe me one.
Lil Lewis, who I've only ever seen DJ once, which was at the Ministry, and in the middle of his house set, he just broke the whole thing down and he played a James Brown record.
But, oh, hang on, I can work it out. I met my wife on that night.
I can think of
memorable
hundreds of memorable stories.
It's just the ones that you can talk about.
Do you know what? At the time, many good memories, but the next day, completely forgot them all.
I've got so many memories. Some I can remember, some probably can't.
I particularly remember getting a call from Nod saying that Diego Maradona was about to come into the club, which was quite a funny situation, because it was around the time that I think Diego was slightly off the rails, as it were. And our lighting man got wind of it and decided to shine this spotlight on him.
Yeah, one of the very first times I came, Mark Knight was playing with Sander Kleinenberg, and it was way back in the days where I still used to drink, and I got pretty leery pretty quickly, and I just remember while Mark was in the middle of mixing records and the crowd was going up or anything, I just ran up behind him with a roll of duct tape and just wrapped it around his head and duct taped his headphones to his head.
I guess one of the nights, I'd say one of the early days of my career, which was when it first opened, was Todd Terry was like massive at this time. He had tracks out every single month, and it was just like he was like one of the biggest producers. And I was playing 3 hours in the bar, and I was DJing, and these guys were behind me. They kept banging me and pushing me, and I was just like, "What the hell's going on here?" And I put on Todd Terry jumping one of these tracks, and then they literally went ballistic, and they literally pushed me over the balcony. And I was like, "Who the fucking hell was that?" I turned around, and it was like Todd Terry, and I was just like, "Okay."
And to say the guy looked uncomfortable was an understatement. And I think he stayed in the club a total of 5.5 minutes and was whisked straight out again and disappeared up the road. So Maradona's visit to the Ministry was a bit rubbish for him, I would imagine.
One of the most memorable experiences at Ministry of Sound was being lucky enough to hear Larry Levan DJ there, which I think was New Year's Eve of the second year that the club was ever open. I mean, this was before I worked there, but I would have dearly loved to have been working there at that time.
I've got loads of stories from the Ministry of Sound. I guess like the most endearing one is I met my ex-wife in the club, Patricia, and I just thought, oh, who's this beautiful woman on the dance floor? And then I kind of like pursued it and chased after her and was with her for 12 years. So I guess that's one of my most endearing memories of the Ministry.
I do remember, I don't know if you're going to ask me this question later, but I do remember hearing a tune there, and I remember where I was to this day, and it was the Bucketheads, The Bomb, and I just remember hearing that tune for the first time. Didn't know what it was, and just it blew me away. The sound, the beat to it. I must have sampled it 100 times, that loop.